bitch in the city, got a hibernate, yeah. Shorty want a perk, got it underneath, yeah. Time for a skinny pants alteration, yeah.
So you just finished your melody, you have good sound selection, you used a catchy pattern, like it's just a good melody, but let me tell you, there's even more than that. Whenever we're making melodies, we tend to think about, just the melody itself, but there's a lot of things that go into it. For starters, let's define what a melody is. So a melody is basically just a set of pitches put together. And the other crucial thing which almost nobody talks about is the tempo, or in other words, the rhythm of the melody. What the rhythm is basically how long these notes play, how short are they, how frequently do they play, basically just the pattern these melodies follow. And if you learn how to layer them the right way, which I'm gonna show you in this video, your melodies will become even better. So without too much talk, let's just get into the video. So the first layer, I started with this Rhodes from Addictive Keys, and I'm using the Silver Face preset. So all this is just basically a simple F sharp minor chord, the basis of the whole thing. And it just repeats again and again every 2 bars. But what I've done here is I've taken that chord and I've built a couple of melodies on top. Now, these melodies work in different ways. So essentially we have 3 patterns inside the melody. The first one would be just the root note, and it basically just plays every 2 bars. On top of that, we have this melody, which is just progressing upwards. And finally, we have this melody, which is going downwards. And once you add all of these 3 melodies together, you have the root notes, which is playing the 2-bar pattern. You have this melody, which is building up, and then you have this melody, which is building down. So it's just creating this whole upwards and downwards motion. Now, I'm not saying go and overthink this like every single pattern that you make, but it's something which you should keep in mind. And there's just more to melodies than just clicking random notes. I wanted to go for something which is a little bit more vintage, so I added this vintage chorus. Then I wanted to make the Rhodes even more vintage, so I added this Waves Factory cassette. And finally, to clear up the low end, because we're gonna be adding a bass later on, I took out the low end with this EQ. So now it sounds like this. And now moving on to the second layer, I wanted to add something which is gonna add a little bit more texture, but it's also, just gonna make the sample more filled in. So I pulled up Matrix 12 from Arturia, and I'm using this flashback preset. Now, right off the bat, you can see that we have another rhythm here. So once again, we have the root note, which is going to be consistent, and it's going to be playing every single bar. So that's kind of establishing the anchor note. Like, this is the root note, and it sets the rhythm for the layer. And right after that, I basically have the simple triad chord here, but I have the middle note pitched up an octave. And to add to the whole theme of the whole melody just progressing down, for every single chord, I've taken the top note, and every single chord which is playing, the top note is going down by 1 semitone. And the other reason why I chopped up the chords like that here is I wanted to contrast the first layer, which is, just constantly going and going and going. Like every single second we have a note playing. Well, in this layer, we have something which plays and then stops, and then plays and stops. Now, as far as effects on this layer specifically, I cut out these harsh frequencies here, and I boosted the high end a little bit. And right after that, I added this fruity delay, and I also added this automation. So basically what this is doing is whenever the chords stop, like right here, the delay kicks in and basically just fills these gaps with delayed versions of the chord. moving on to the third layer, I needed something which is gonna act as a top line melody, you know, something as a lead sound. So I open up Analog Web and I'm using this pad, which is a sine pad, and it's playing this very simple pattern. Now, what I want you to notice here is everything is revolving around the root note pattern. So the root note or anchor note is establishing the whole pattern for this layer. So basically the note is playing every 2 bars. And once again, we have notes which are just going up and then back down. And for this layer specifically, the notes are longer. You know, they're stretched out more because you want to balance the choppy layers that we had before that. I have this Echo Boy, which is a very tight delay, and basically I wanted to thicken the sound a little bit more because it's just a single sine wave, so it's pretty thin. Then I have this Fruity Stereo Shaper, which once again, basically I'm just making the sound as wide as I can. And then I have this EQ, which is cutting out a very harsh specific frequency. So far we have this. But to finish everything off, like usual, I'm adding some low end, so I'm using Flex and I'm adding the BB flat wound major preset, and I wanted to switch it up a little bit so, you know, the root note doesn't stay just at F sharp. So basically I'm just playing around with notes from the scale, and I have these 2 notes like here. Basically this is a 5th interval. Now if you want to know more about music theory stuff, I actually made a very in-depth video about this. You can go check it out there. But basically these 2 notes are, you know, playing every 2 bars and they're longer, and in between these 2 I'm just adding notes which are, you know, just creating a little bit more bounce. And since I'm using the bass layer instead of an 808 for the drums, I wanted to make it a little bit more distorted, so I added this really fast distortion. And then I added the EQ, which is, you know, just taking out the distorted frequencies and just leaving the saturated low end. Once we have all the layers, basically we have these 2, you know, longer drawn out note patterns, and they're just basically balancing out the top 2 layers, which are, you know, more chopped up, more active, like something is always going on. So yeah, next time you're making a melody, you should always consider, like, is my melody way too dragged out? Is it very slow? Is it way too rhythmic? Because whenever you go ahead and you add drums, if it's a melody which is, you know, very percussive, very rhythmic, the drums are gonna enhance that and it's just gonna be too much. So you definitely gotta watch out for that. Like, make sure you aim for balance in your beats. Now moving on to the drums, again, we're always keeping it simple. So I have this 2-step hi-hat with these rolls here and here. Then I have this extremely simple snare pattern, and what I have here, like at the end of every 4 bars, just another counter snare. And finally, last but not least, the kick, again, just following basic 3 notes, like doom doom doom. Like, that's the whole pattern, and it just goes on and on for every single bar. So yeah, enough yapping, let's just hear the final melody and the drums.
Bad bitch in the city, got a hibernate, yeah. Shorty want a perk, got it underneath, yeah. Time for a skinny pants alteration, yeah. I woke up this morning, I was hot in Jesus, bro. I just took 2 pills down with my people, bro. Last night that addy had me on my feet, bro.